Welcome to the Joy to the World podcast. Each day during December, we will explore together passages from the Bible that teach us about God's joy in this world, His Son, Jesus Christ. Make sure you subscribe to whichever platform you get your podcasts from, or listen on our YouTube channel by searching for Anna Long Presbyterian Church.
Day 7, Hebrews chapter 8, read from the English Standard Version. Now the point in what we are saying is this. We have such a high priest, one who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the Majesty in heaven, a minister in the holy places, in the true tent that the Lord set up, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifices. Thus it is necessary for this priest also to have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are priests who offer gifts according to the law. They serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly things. For when Moses was about to erect the tent, he was instructed by God, saying, "See that you make everything according to the pattern that was shown you on the mountain." But as it is, Christ has obtained a ministry that is as much more excellent than the old as the covenant he mediates is better, since it is enacted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion to look for a second. For he finds fault with them when he says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For they did not continue in my covenant, so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall not teach each one his neighbour and each one his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful towards their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more." In speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete, and what is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away.
One of the topics of conversation in recent months around our village here in Anna Long has been about the replacement of the footbridge across the Anna Long River. For those who don't know the bridge, it is a footbridge that links the corn mill to the harbour. Being used daily by so many people, it needed to be replaced. As we await the new bridge, we fully appreciate its purpose in being a convenient way of getting from one side of the river to another. Our passage today is like this bridge, as it helps us understand what we have been reading over the past few days. On day 5, we read the long passage from Leviticus chapter 16 that told us how God had organised the Day of Atonement so that the sins of the people could be dealt with. Yesterday, day 6, we then read from Jeremiah chapter 31 and how God would establish a new covenant with his people because they were unable to keep the original covenant. This new covenant was going to be one where a heavenly high priest would be sufficient to deal with our sins. This heavenly high priest is Jesus Christ. He is the only one who can forgive our sins because he paid the price our sins deserve so that we wouldn't have to. As we read today from Hebrews chapter 8, we will be forgiven for thinking that it all sounds familiar. It should, because the writer of Hebrews quotes the passage we read from Jeremiah chapter 31. In doing this, he is bridging the gap for us of the old and new covenants by pointing us to Jesus. He tells us that Jesus is far superior than any priest of the past, and because of his ministry, no priest will be required in the future to act as a mediator between God and humankind. In fact, the writer describes the ministry of Jesus as being excellent. It is his closing lines that are good news of great joy for us. Because of Jesus and his work on the cross, he has atoned for our sins once and for all. The old covenant is no more, and we know salvation through Christ. There are no more rituals and no more intermediaries between us and God. We have access to the Father through the Son. Jesus is God's joy in this world because he enables us to have a relationship with God. This relationship will not pass away and is eternal. This relationship is not dependent on us, but is a relationship by God's goodness and grace. Such a relationship is available to us all if we but follow Christ. Thank you for listening to this Joy to the World podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts from so that you can receive this directly every day. And also, if you're listening on YouTube, do subscribe and click that bell icon so that you too can be notified when each episode is available.